once it rolls out and moves to the next level, then it can open up and to create jobs, basically. And this is the bigger picture, and the only reason I know this is just from traveling with Phoenix Union and the Greater Phoenix Chamber on what does our workforce pipeline look like, and where are the jobs of the future, and how do the systems align to where the jobs are for the future in order to attract the companies, the high-tech companies and high-paying jobs here in the state. Am I on the right track, or am I off, or no?
Do you mind if I give a few comments? Thank you.
And I have your card here.
So Chairwoman, thank you very much for the opportunity, and councilmen and women for being here today. So Chris said it so well, and obviously this is why take Chris on the road with me everywhere we go to pitch companies. But the main premise is that the Greater Phoenix region is growing at twice the national average in healthcare jobs. And so what this does, Councilwoman Pastor, as you described, this is a critical part of the ecosystem that we need to help support the startups and entrepreneurs that are trying to advance their idea. So taking from ideation to prototype to ultimately getting their product commercialized to be ready for the market. We need an insulation path for those kind of startups that are here in downtown Phoenix. And ASU's MedTech Ventures ecosystem allows us to do that. So that's one component, and that's what we're asking for, is support for that specific node. But the overarching larger grant that Chris is talking about is the strategy of working with CEI and ASU to build density in the urban center around MedTech launches. And so the goal is, as Chris described, in the return to your question, Councilwoman Mendoza, is the more companies that we allow or we support getting to scale, that's where the direct return will come to the city, is that more of these entrepreneurs stay here and decide that they want to grow and scale their enterprise here. That's where the return comes. And I will tell you, the top elite bioscience markets across the country have these kind of apparatus in the urban center. So we're just levelizing our ability to compete with these tier 1 bioscience and biomedical markets.
And Chairwoman, to your point, it's very much like a Cahoots, it's very much like a Galvanize, very much like a department, those things where people can work together and collaborate together.
So it reminds me of Councilman Nowakowski of the trade trip that we took to Tijuana, on how we looked at those companies and looking at how they were going to, in the health area, how they were going to build their innovation and what it was going to take in order to do that. And then on how we would work together on possibly moving some of those high-tech industries into Phoenix, and then be able then to move, transport pieces back and forth, but be able to globally build it and make it happen.
As you and Councilman Nowakowski saw on your trade mission, that's exactly what this would do, is set up that type of an opportunity.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Chris, I gave you your 2 minutes here. Information only, item 11, Key Phoenix Economic Indicators Quarterly Report. Does anybody want anything on item 11?
Thank you.
No, thank you? Okay. So item 12 is to, I think this is yours, authorization to issue request for proposal for disposition and redevelopment of a city-owned garage. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon
Hi,
again.
Jeff. How are you?
Great.
Good afternoon again, Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee. We are here today to discuss with you a potential opportunity for the redevelopment of a city-owned parking garage located at the corner of 3rd Street and Adams. With me today is Jeff Stapleton, who is the Program Manager in Community Economic Development, and Robbie, I am so sorry, your last name? Ashton. I drew a blank. I want to say another one. Robbie Ashton with the Phoenix Convention Center. Mr. Chan is actually out of town today and trusted us to move forward with information for the council with this project. I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Stapleton to walk you through staff's proposal and answer any questions that you might have. Jeff?
Hey, Jeff, right before, Madam Chair.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
This is basically what we call the Hyatt Regency garage, or where the Matador used to be. That garage, just so people can be familiarized with what we're talking about.
Councilman, exactly.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, Councilman. That actually leads right into the down by 2nd Street, Adams Street, and the public alley to the south. And then some of the other amenities that surround the site. You see the convention center at the bottom of the screen, north pointing to the right here. You have the Hyatt Hotel, the Renaissance Hotel, the One North Central office building there to the top to the left. You have an office building with some retail commercial across the alley. And then off screen, you have Block 23 and then Cityscape across Washington Street. A little more background on the garage. It was built in 1972. It is a general fund garage, so it's similar to the Heritage Garage and the East Garage. It's a parking facility managed by the Convention Center. There's about 500 parking spaces. It's about 60% leased. There are 3 ground floor retail units. One was the old Matador space. One is occupied by Steve's Greenhouse Grill, and one is occupied by the Arizona Latino Arts and Cultural Center, ALAC. We see this as being a great time to be able to take this out for an RFP because all of those leasing commitments expire by the end of 21. So by the time a proposer would be ready to start construction, all of our leasing commitments will have been extinguished. The facility did appraise at a value of $11.4 million. What type of project are we looking at this site? Similar to other downtown redevelopment RFPs, we are looking for an urban mixed-use infill project. We are looking for a project that will provide for an availability of public parking. So think of similar to the Phoenix Biomedical Campus Garage, where we have leasing commitments for users who are nearby, but also the public can get into the facility. They're able to pay for parking at the facility, and it makes for a more efficient use of downtown parking spaces. This is one of the most prominent redevelopment sites in the entire region, so we want to make sure that we have really high-quality projects that are proposed. We want a proposer who's going to implement the recommendations from the Adams Street Activation Study, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then we want a project that will also be consistent with all of the other plans and goals that the city has approved over the years, including the Downtown Strategic Plan, Downtown Code, Tree and Shade Plan, Bicycle Plan, and so forth. Adams Street Activation Study. So back in 2013, the study was approved thanks to great community input and support from the council. And that study really outlined how we could make this really a gateway from the light rail station there in the background of the photo to the convention center in the foreground. And some of the recommendations were making sure that there were street facing uses that faced Adams Street. And you'll hear about some of those later in a presentation regarding the Hyatt Hotel. Landscaping improvements, pedestrian amenities, being able to invest in some public infrastructure that can help temporarily close the street for events. And our first project that was completed was by the Renaissance Hotel about 2 years ago. And so you can see in the quality of improvements that they've made and have brought to Adams Street. So we expect the same thing from the developer at this site here at the Regency Garage. Our proposed evaluation criteria, we of course are putting the most points towards the actual proposal itself, the actual project. Next most goes to return to the city. That can be a combination of the purchase price and the public benefit that is proposed. And then we're going to weigh the proposer's qualifications and experience. And specifically, we're looking for proposers who have experience with high-rise development. Where are we going in the timeline right now? We've gotten neighborhood input. We went to Downtown Voices Coalition and the Downtown Neighborhood Alliance. We are here before you today to request your approval. And with that in hand, we will go to full council next week. We intend to issue the RFP this spring. And then later this year, we intend to come back to this subcommittee with business terms and a successful proposer. And with that, we request the subcommittee's recommendation to full city council to issue a request for proposal for the disposition and redevelopment of the city-owned Regency Garage for a urban mixed-use redevelopment project and authorization to begin negotiations with the recommended proposer.
Are there any questions? Go
Madam
ahead.
Chair, if you can go back to that picture where, I think it's a couple slides there, right there, you passed. If you can see, it's really a pedestrian walkway. This is really the gateway into our convention center. So years ago, we were talking about how can we actually have that wow effect when you come out of a convention center, and at the same time, have people walk all the way into Cityscape or so. And this is just a great example of what can happen. I know that the Hyatt Regency is going to be coming in a few minutes, but one of the things that we talked about is how we extended from the Hyatt Regency all the way into the where the parking stalls are. And I know that the plans that are coming to us doesn't include that. And maybe when we have that conversation with the Hyatt Regency, I just wanted my colleagues to see how the original plans did have it all the way out to where the parking slots are now.
It does include it, or?
I'm just kind of jumping ahead of myself.
Okay.
So I just
right.
want you to keep in mind that when we're getting the presentation of the Hyatt Regency, that if we can really look at more open space in front of the Hyatt Regency, that would be great, because it really adds to the what we really wanted to create with the activation of Adams Street.
Chairwoman, Councilman Nowakowski, we'll bring the same slide up for you in the next
Right.
conversation so that you can have it in front of you as we're having that discussion with our Hyatt partners.
And on the scoring, I think it's really, really important to have the parking as one of the high levels of the scoring. I think that's one of the things that we're lacking in the downtown area, and we hear over and over, especially with our commitment with the Hyatt Regency and securing those parking slots for what they need, and also for the individuals that are coming in the downtown area for that experience. So I'm not sure where that would fall under that in those three categories.
Chairwoman, Councilman Nowakowski, if I could suggest, we would put it into the concept to redevelop the site, is where we could put them. And I'd look to Councilman Stark, who's the planner amongst us, to say
writing the
that.
language for you.
Oh, thank you.
No, I do concur. I think we probably should word something to include parking. Concept to redevelop the site with inclusion of parking. Because I think you're right, we do need it.
Right.
Parking's a premium down here.
And Chairwoman, Councilman Nowakowski, as we are just looking at the framework of should this council choose to move forward with this item, in that framework, what we've looked at is having that language that asks the proposer to show, and they'll be scored on the amount of public parking that they provide back to the city.
So one of my concerns was the parking, because we're losing parking. And if I remember on, I don't know who was sitting with me on the other committee or this committee, there's one point where we were paying for parking from Heinz. I think it's the Heinz, and we were paying for parking because the argument was we needed parking. My concern, or big time for the future, is we have a garage now we're gonna put it up for an RFP, and where's the parking gonna go, and where are people gonna park? So I think it's critical to have it in the concept to redevelop the site. I'm also assuming that we're gonna have activated space on the bottom.
Chairwoman,
I don't know
you're absolutely
what it's
correct.
gonna be written like, but those are the things that I believe we probably all would like to see within there.
Chairwoman, you are dead spot on. So on the parking, they jokingly call me the Match.com of parking. I'm always looking for parking for someone. And so as we write this RFP, that would be what we're requesting. Of course, it will, Alan Stevens' team gives us great guidance on making sure that the ground floor activation and meeting the downtown activation and codes and the walkable urban code are met. As we put that out, we always ensure that someone from Alan's team is on our panel and on our scoring opportunities. If we come back, and we've chatted, and the Hyatt will speak for itself, of course, but as we've talked to the property owners around there, they look at the parking garage, and it's a 1972 parking garage. Staff believes that we could come back to council with something that kind of replaces a portion of the parking, but is something that more activates the property, brings the Adams Street activation forward, but even more importantly, provides something for existing property owners around there, something better for their tenants and their clients to look at as they walk through the area.
Chris, so this isn't limited to the height it is right now, so it can actually be demolished and go up 20 stories or so, right?
Chairwoman Councilman Nowakowski, you're correct. So we've got an engineering study done of the garage, and it does suggest that you could even leave the garage in place, span over the garage, and build a building above that. You could demolish the garage, start from the ground up, and move forward. So we did, just to make sure we weren't bringing something to council that had no ability to move forward, and this is a bit outside my area and Mr. Chan's areas of expertise. We did host a program for the development community and the engineers and architects to bring them in, kind of show them this is what we were considering taking to council. Are we foolish, or is there something here? And they were really appreciative of that. They were able to provide us some good guidance and feedback, but they did. Some were very interested in doing something very cool with the existing garage. Some were interested in blading it and starting all over again. So I think we'll get a range of things for the council to consider. If it, once we've got them in, should council want to move forward, you know, you'd have to be able to select from those items.
Go ahead.
And the other thing is that we have this great project, the Adams Street Activation Project. So are they going to be committed to this streetscaping and improvement and all that? So
Chairwoman
it
Council-
matches the rest of the street.
Yes, sir. We absolutely in the language, or just as we were frameworking it out, just to be ready, should council choose to move forward, it is in there that they are required to meet the Adams Street activation that plan that is in existence and approved by council.
Does that include the WUCO?
It does. Yes, ma'am, it
And
does.
the shaded
Green Shade Master
trees?
Plan, all the
Looking at
codes that
Ellen.
Alan reminds me of on a constant basis. Yes.
Are we gonna put, and I don't wanna use, I shouldn't use this term, when it has to deal with height? Because somebody may come back and use the existing building, build a cool concept, they go up, I don't know. Here's where I go crazy in the height. So Deborah, you might have to help me. What, 200? And then somebody says, no, we wanna go higher. I mean, how is that gonna come into play in the RFP?
Chairwoman, as we look at moving that forward, the heights in that area are the highest that we have in, it's high rise.
Okay.
It's the highest that we have in the entire city.
196, or how?
250.
No, 200, yeah, 250,
250.
yeah. 196 is MR, I think.
Just as a follow-up, does the airport have some say in that? Because I thought it's staggered in the downtown because of the airport.
It does, but not in that part of downtown.
Okay, thank you.
South of the warehouse district has
Okay, thank you, thank you. I
Okay.
couldn't remember.
So as we look at the submittals that come in, the independent panel that we seat will look at all of those things. What density are they providing? What types of activation? How many hours of the day are they activated? What is the project able to stand the test of time to bring great things to Phoenix? They bring a lot of themselves to the scoring of that panel, and they will take all those things into consideration as they review that. You might end up with, you hate to say it's got to be at least 250 feet, because you might end up with something at 150 feet that's the coolest thing you've ever seen, with everything that the downtown community and the council has asked of the staff, and something that's 250 that's not as cool. So you kind of hate to put, height as one of its scoring criteria.
So, one of the questions is the tenants that are currently sitting there, what happens to them? In particular, Alak. It's one of our only, I would say, in the downtown area, art or cultural piece. So what happens to the tenants? Because I think a year ago I started hearing rumbling about
Sure.
this.
Well, members of the subcommittee, there are the tenants that are there today. Of course, is a restaurant and our arts, our Latino arts and arts program in ALOC. From a timing standpoint, We'd like to be able to look you in the eye and say that we'll be back to you really shortly and somebody's going to start building immediately and how this works. From a timing standpoint, we typically see from the time that we're here before you until somebody's ready to do something, somewhere from 18 to 24 months. So we've got lots of time. ALOC is currently on a month-to-month lease. Steve's greenhouse expires at the end of 2021, in 2021. So, you know, the timing works well with what's there. We certainly would not leave our tenants, particularly ALOC, to flounder themselves. We have had a conversation with them and have assured them that they'll stay there while we go through this process. A new tenant may want them to be part of the new project, which means we temporarily relocate them. If that's not part of what we move forward with, staff would absolutely engage with both and assist them in finding new space right in the surrounding area.
Well, I would, just thoughts because I'm thinking of that street. I think the convention center has space facing Herberger, because I think I went to a pop-up store there one time. So I think there's space. It's not being utilized at this moment. So it's another city building, so I would anticipate we could make a very similar agreement, if not, I don't know what it looks like, but those are my thoughts.
Chairwoman, you're correct. We have several city-owned properties in that very close area that are a very similar situation, and that would be the first place we would work with the tenants to look at, is in a very similar situation with the city-owned property.
One last question for me. Concept to redevelopment the site, can we make sure that in that rubric, activation is definitely the same as parking activation, and what that looks like is part of the point system?
We'll
I don't know
take care
how
of
it gets broken down, but does anybody want to move this?
You know, Madam Chair? You know, this has been a project that we've been working on in District 7 for a while. We never thought it would actually happen. And then, you know, it was just our friends to the west that started the street activation, and now today we have the other partner of the other side, the other hotel on the other side, come in and start the activation. And it's great that the Hyatt Regency garage, as we call it, will be a good partner in this also. So I like to make a motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That includes this parking.
That includes the parking and the activation and all the stuff that we'll
Yes.
see it, right?
Yes,
before-
you'll see it. And Chairman, what we'll do is we'll make those changes and come back and visit with each of you prior to the formal meeting so that you can see what staff has moved forward with.
I'm glad to help you, Councilman.
Thank you so much, Madam.
Item 13, authorization to enter into a development agreement with the Hyatt Regency Phoenix Hotel Company, LP, for streetscape improvement project in downtown Phoenix.
I just thought I would stay with you for the rest of the afternoon and just keep on going. Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee, we're here today with an opportunity that continues the Adams Street activation here in downtown Phoenix. Our partner with the Hyatt Regency Hotel is here today. They approached city staff. They are currently undergoing about a $43 million renovation on the existing Hyatt Hotel. This is both inside and outside of the hotel. With that renovation, they intend to activate and put the Adams Street activation in place on the ground floor of the Hyatt Hotel. As we look at the opportunities in the area, when you look at the city-owned hardscape, the public right-of-way of the area, it's in pretty rough shape and needs some improvements. With me today is Terry McAvoy, Project Manager in Community and Economic Development. I'll turn it over to Terry to walk you through the renovation and what staff would propose, and then answer any questions you might have. Terry?
Thank you, Chris. Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee, as Chris mentioned, the Hyatt Regency is undergoing a $40 million investment. It's a 26-story hotel that was opened in 1976. It has 693 guest rooms. Part of the renovation would include interior and exterior renovations, remodeled guest rooms, public spaces, and new food and beverage options on the ground floor. The renovation will generate approximately $2.7 million in construction sales tax, with about $900,000 coming back to the city of Phoenix. Streetscape improvements may include sidewalks, curb lines, parking stalls, pedestrian and vehicle lighting, and improvements to facilitate street closures for special events. The streetscape improvements, and you saw this slide in the previous presentation, is from the 2013 council-approved Adams Street Activation Study. That really is what inspires this project, is the action taken through the council back in 2013. The study area includes Adams Street from Central Avenue to 2nd Street, which really connects the convention center to the light rail and to the rest of downtown. These improvements, again, will help with ground floor activation and increase the appeal as a special event venue. The key business terms of this deal, there are no impacts to the general fund. The $280,000 reimbursement is available in the Downtown Community Reinvestment Fund. There'll be no reimbursement until construction is completed and accepted by the city. And by improving this older sidewalk and the right-of-way improvements, the city is really making an investment in this key pedestrian corridor in downtown. No city's funds will be used for any interior renovations. Those improvements will be made explicitly by the Hyatt.
And Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee, staffs, as you're looking at the pictures you're seeing in front of you, the recommendations from staff are solely in the city right-of-way. So they're in areas that we would make improvements in the future through our capital improvement plan, but are solely in publicly owned city right-of-way.
Again, some of the benefits of this proposed renovation, if council were to approve this action, it positions the Hyatt to better serve its guests with modern amenities that travelers have come to expect. Again, the project will generate roughly $2.7 million in construction sales tax, with an estimated $900,000 coming back to the city of Phoenix. And this project continues the Adams Street Activation Study's vision, which promotes pedestrian-focused experience and helping to create a more vibrant downtown.
Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee, as you look at this and formulate your questions, should the council move forward with the RFP on the Adams Street site on our Regency Garage, and this takes place, council's already approved the Central and Adams project, the Renaissance is already complete. This would actually complete the Adams Street activation through that area and be able to move that forward. And I joke, but it's rare that we get to actually say we've checked off a plan and that plan is complete.
So with that, we request the Planning and Economic Development Subcommittee to move forward with authorization to enter into agreements with the Hyatt as necessary and to move forward with these public infrastructure improvements. With that, would take any questions.
Councilman Nowakowski, you have any questions?
Oh, no, I think this is a great, I mean, we had a dream and the dream's coming true. It's just incredible. You know, one of the things that I love to see is really activating that sidewalk on Adams Street a little bit better. I know that we have some green, what is it? I think it's like flowers and trees and all that, but how can we actually extend that restaurant out into that area a little bit better? And you know, what we did with the Renaissance was just incredible. You know, they have these roll-up kind of garage doors that really opens up that area. And how do you create that same type of atmosphere here? And at the other, on the very end of Adams Street, towards the Hanny's area, if we can make sure that we have some infrastructure like water and electricity, because I know that we have some of the big events in our convention center. It's a great opportunity to create sort of a street fair or a party, or when you have events where you have a lot of young people, you can actually park a food truck there that can actually just hook up to a water supply and electricity, or a vendor that we can set out there in the corner and sell hot dogs or street tacos and stuff like that. But to make sure that we think ahead of time to make sure all those infrastructure things are set up for a a street party atmosphere. And in the future, if we have a Super Bowl or so, that we can close that off very easily and not worry about power, water, and all those kind of things.
Chairwoman, Councilman Nowakowski, as we look, as the council considers this and we look at moving forward, we'll put that in our mind. And if it is something else that from the city side, we need to look at making an investment through our CIP or through our downtown reinvestment fund, we certainly can work through that. I think that's a wonderful idea, and we agree with you. We need to look at this one time and do it well. The applicant, the Hyatt, is here, so if you have any questions or would like to talk with them about the activation of that corner, they are here, and we've had great conversations with them, and they're willing to consider what the city's looking for.
So as I'm looking at this picture, I don't know what the name of that restaurant is, I believe, but it looks like it's opening up and moving out.
Well,
Currently-
that's our idea, but then their
Okay,
concept
all
would be
right,
something.
Theirs
Okay.
is here.
That's theirs, yeah.
Okay, so I see what you're saying. You're saying you would like, can you go back one slide? You would like to see
More.
that vision,
Right, more activation.
more
outside,
activation of that area
outside
instead of
dining
it
and all that,
just,
yeah.
yes,
Looks like more shade.
yeah,
too.
more shade. The vision that, and I'm new at this one, the vision that I see on this is from Central all the way to First.
Right.
From Washington all the way up to Van Buren. That whole piece, a T, I guess, could be shut down and you could have a street party.
Right.
And create a street party. And the other side where the alley is, there's lots of beautiful murals that Alec has done, and you can activate even the alley and put in a band or something and really close it down. I'm thinking of that. I'm being selfish, but I'm thinking of a Cinco de Mayo or a 16 de Septiembre. I'm thinking about that, but I'm also thinking long term, Super Bowl, Final Four, because we're losing the space
Right.
on First and between Washington and Jefferson.
Right.
So I think it's critical in this whole piece and for the Hyatt to understand what our biggest concept is and where their long-term goal is as they create this space. And so I'm assuming staff will kind of speak and say, now you see the bigger vision that really the council has been working on for a long time, or Councilman Nowakowski has. We're just supporting him.
That's right.
Thank you. Well, the vision was actually starting from Margaret Hans Park all the way down First Street
Okay.
to the arena. And basically what we've done is made it more walkable and more individuals that can actually walk and access the park all the way to the arena. And then this concept came out as a short version of that. So hopefully in the future we'll have Adams Street going straight down First Street to Margaret Hans Park, where downtown will be really walkable and rideable for kids and people.
Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee, we hear exactly what you're saying, and we'll work with the Hyatt to move that forward and to have something that is exactly what you're discussing here today.
Yeah, because that's a critical corner, if you really think about it, in the sense, I'm thinking about Nashville because I just returned from there, and I'm thinking about the convention center and their corner and the Omni on how they have that space and they can shut it down. And they shut it down, and then you can walk back and forth, and there's like activation of the restaurants and open out, and then people just want to engage. They naturally just want to engage and participate. So I think it's a great concept. Now let's just make it happen. So is there a motion?
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We are on item 14. Authorization to issue requests for proposals for Mexico Trade Development Consulting Services.
Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee, we are here today to talk to you about the release of a potential RFP to continue the city strategy that we have had for the last 5 years in enhancing our activity in Mexico. Just as by way of background, as we look at our biggest trading partner, and we look at who that largest trading partner is, and that is Mexico. In 2017, we saw about $3 billion in exports between Mexico and the state of Arizona. That's down slightly from where we saw them in the previous year, and of course that is due to a shift in mining, the tariffs, and some unknown areas, but we're seeing enhancements in other areas on those exports. If we kind of take you back in history to the city's engagement and involvement in its Mexico office, in 2013, the Mexico Trade and Investment Strategy was approved by the City Council. That same year, you authorized the release of a request for proposal to create and to activate that Mexico strategy. In 2014, the solicitation and contract was executed, and we began working on our Mexico projects. Also in 2014, the Mexico City Trade Office opened. Councilman Nowakowski attended the grand opening of the Mexico Trade Office in that year, and it's been open. Our 5th year anniversary of the Mexico Trade Office will be Mexico City Trade Office will be this year. In 2017, as part of our Mexico strategy, we opened the Hermosillo office. In fact, we were just there a week before last with the mayor and Councilwoman Pastor to celebrate the 2-year anniversary. We had an outstanding trade mission that saw more than 300 businesses coming in and visiting with the city during that 2 days that we were there. As we move forward, you'll see we executed the contract originally in 2014, and that Mexico contract did have 5 years worth of extensions. So those extensions expire on June 30th, meaning we are without a Mexico contract moving our 2 Mexico offices forward beginning on July 1st. If we look at the strategy and where we were previously in our Mexico strategy and where staff would recommend moving forward today, beginning in 2014 and our last 5 years of strategy really was about ingraining Phoenix in the country, ingraining Phoenix and kind of gaining a trust with companies in Mexico, with our dignitaries in Mexico, and creating a strong partnership and relationship that allowed our dignitaries on both sides of the border to become familiar and to build a network and a bond with each other. And I think we've done that incredibly successfully. Phoenix is very well respected throughout the entire country, not just in Hermosillo and Mexico City, but in a number of other cities and states that we've been in the area. As we move forward, and that was the last 5 years of our contract, was so much of it was that kind of the delegations and getting the familiarity, opening our offices. As we look to move forward, we really see this as a time to focus more diligently on business-to-business activity, finding ways for our businesses to work together, on bringing new businesses from Mexico here, on allowing helping our businesses trade into Mexico, expanding our presence in Mexico. We are in Hermosillo and Mexico City now with 2 very good trade offices, but we see the potential for other areas to open, potentially Monterrey and Guadalajara, where we see strong entrepreneurship activity, advanced industry activity, autonomous vehicles, and others. Businesses in Mexico are looking for expansion opportunities, and those expansion opportunities, they are now making their first stop here. I had 12 that I have now connected with from our Hermosillo Trade Mission. I've already connected, one of which has already signed a lease just since our trade mission 2 weeks ago, signed a lease here in Phoenix. A software company, a software and IT company, has signed a lease already here in Phoenix. But as we look at those, it's very different doing business here in Arizona than it is in Mexico. It's very different doing business in Mexico than it is in Arizona. So what we would recommend to council, should you decide that continuing our Mexico trade consultant is a way you'd like to go, is focusing on having the consultant be able to connect them with attorneys, being able to connect them with workforce, training programs, helping them through the permitting process. It's always interesting to me when we see people from other countries that don't face a similar regulatory process that we have here, and being able to help them understand before they get there what that's like. And then finally, we see a lot of capital sitting on the sidelines in Mexico, looking for placements in other countries. And so that consultant being able to help find projects that Mexico investment, and working, of course, with city staff. I have a team that focuses on this as well, in working with community and economic development staff, great investment opportunities here in Phoenix. This is what we would recommend here is a procurement for an RFP. With me today is Gretchen Wolf. She is our program manager and procurement officer in community and economic development. And I turn it over to Gretchen to walk you through staff's proposed minimum qualifications.
Thank you. If directed by council to issue this solicitation, we recommend that we have minimum qualifications for both the proposing entity and the primary consultant, and that both would be required to have 3 years experience providing Mexico trade development services to a city, county, or a state.
If I could, just for a moment, just for some clarification on when we talk proposer and the primary consultant, and as we look at, you've got the umbrella of the company, but then you've got support services underneath. So let's say let's say that Arizona State University were to respond as a primary, we wouldn't want them to have students supporting our Mexico offices. We'd want to make sure that professionals supported our Mexico offices, just as an example of what we'd be looking for in that consultant.
Thank you. The recommended evaluation criteria would be the qualifications and experience of that primary consultant, followed by the approach to the scope of work, the proposer's qualifications and experience, and then fees.
I believe Councilwoman Mendoza has some questions.
Yeah,
I saw your hand and you have to leave.
yeah, thank you. So a few questions about the RFP. One of the concerns that I have is the 3 years experience, and the reason being is because although someone has experience in an area, that doesn't mean that they can implement the vision or the results that we want. And I don't want to exclude any potential bidders. So that's one of the issues that I see here. The other issue that I see is the approach to scope of work. This is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, this is the results. This is what I want to see. And I think that we need to put more points into that. Instead of 250, that should be a 300 or even a 350. But to me, this is the results of what I'm looking for in these companies. And so I want to make sure that we get our return of our investment. So, and can you go back again and tell me again the primary consultant, the proposers?
Sure. So in the example that Chris gave, say ASU wanted to propose, ASU as an entity's experience would be considered as the proposer, but we would require them to identify the specific individual who would be the primary consultant, the person who would be leading our efforts, so that we could also evaluate that individual's experience as well.
Okay.
In the example of if it was a grad student or
Okay.
something compared to a professor, we'd want the panel to be able to differentiate.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Go ahead.
No.
I'm going to pass it back to you.
So I was just wondering about the experience. It says experience with cities, counties, and states governments, right? So what happens if, I think there's a lot of consultants out there that really don't consult with cities, counties, and state governments, right? But they actually do broker deals with businesses in Mexico and all that. So are we going to limit ourselves just to individuals that, and I think it's just maybe less than a handful of individuals that would have that qualification, and it would leave a lot of potential individuals out of it because they wouldn't have those 3 years of government experience.
Chairwoman, Councilman Nowakowski, absolutely at the direction of the subcommittee. If you'd like to look at more rather than less as to qualified applicants that could come in, we could work on a different language as a minimum qualification for that scope of work and bring that back, kind of visit with you and see. So before your formal council meeting, we could work on what that language could look like. understanding exactly what you're talking about, that there are the potentials for others who could be qualified to work. The way staff had thought about it is, it might be somebody who works for the Arizona-Mexico Commission. It might be somebody who works for a foreign direct investment or an embassy or something, was kind of in that government entity.
Well, the other thing too, Madam Chair, is I was thinking about, I've been going on these missions for a while, and sometimes the protocol of meeting with other elected officials stop business for us. So many times we're here meeting with other mayors and our counterparts in Mexico, where I think it would be more effective actually going directly to those businesses that we can actually try to attract here to the United States. I believe you can use us as those individuals that kind of meet and greet with the CEOs or the head of states, but then we step out of the picture, and then you all take over to try to bring in those businesses and create those deals. So I'm just afraid that we end up having an individual that's really good in setting up government to government, and we're not really doing business to business, and that's what I'm fearing about that.
Chairwoman, Councilman Nowakowski, that is, as we look at those scores, as we look at what staff would recommend moving forward with, that is exactly where we feel we should focus on as well, is I think our staff can handle the dignitary visits. We've got our Sister Cities program. We've got ourselves who have become very adept at that. Our consultant needs to be focusing on businesses and being able to trade with new businesses and expand new businesses to and from Mexico.
So would you put 3 years experience providing Mexico trade development service to a city, county, state government business? Or would you add, I mean, what would the language be? I guess we don't have to talk about it here. You can figure out the language and bring it back, or however.
I think what we, of course, I've got somebody who thinks on her feet sitting really well right next to me. So maybe what we could do, should see if this meets what the council's looking for. What if we just changed it to 3 years experience providing Mexico trade development services? Not to a government, not to an entity. It could be business development. It could be with others. And we'd certainly want somebody who had at least 3 years, I would believe, experience working in Mexico and driving that development.
Well, I would agree with that, but I would also like to have bullets of saying business. However, to be very clear what experience you're looking for. Because I could have 3 years experience providing, Mexico trade in some other area. So I think you need to be very detailed or specific as to what areas you're looking for.
Chairwoman, why don't we work on that language, on those bullet points, bring that back to you before the formal meeting. We can bring that around to each of you, make sure you're comfortable with it, and then make that adjustment in the formal item before, as we move forward.
Now, I have a question on the approach to scope of work. Is that the measurements? Is that the final outcome of what we want? Or what exactly approach? Because approach to scope of work is how would I approach the work that you were asking me to do? That's how I'm reading it, so.
Councilwoman Pastor, you're absolutely correct. The approach to scope is how they're going to do that. So the RFP is going to outline, here are the things we want them to do. Here are the measurements we would have. So maybe it's we want X number of companies connected per month. And then they're going to tell us in their proposal and their approach to scope how exactly they're going to do that.
Okay.
So then the panel gets to see, well, this person is going to give us more boots on the street. This person is going to give us more attendance at trade shows and be able to evaluate which is in the city's best interest.
Okay. So,
Chairwoman, as we've looked at this, the guidance that we've received from the council is exactly that, to have those metrics that shows they have to meet those minimum number of those items. And so they would actually be in the RFP, you have to provide 3 leads on foreign direct investment. You have to provide 3 leads with businesses. You have to provide, so we have a measurable and metric when we come back to council to be able to say they're at 120% of their requirement, or they're lacking when we come back to recommend for any additional contract extensions. The council knows right where we're at with metrics that you can measure.
okay, so I'm looking at the primary consultant's qualification and experience. And then I go proposer's qualification and experience. Tell me the difference.
Thank you. So as we talked about before with the example of ASU, so say ASU proposes and they've got, Joe Smith, grad student, as the primary consultant. So we would look at the primary consultant's experience in that first category and say, what experience does he have doing Mexico trade, and with what type of entities? What other economic development experience does he have that's relevant to this scope of work? Then when we come down to that third criterion, that's when we're going to look at ASU as an entity and say, what is ASU's experience? So again, we want to make sure that the individual assigned knows what he or she is doing because they're the person who's going to be our face in Mexico. But the company, we want to make sure the company has enough bandwidth and expertise to support that person, as well as jump in should that primary consultant change during the course of the contract.
So how in my head, how I'm reading it, they're the sub. Okay.
Good point.
Okay. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
And I'll second it, but were we going to look at the criteria? I think Councilwoman Mendoza wanted to
Up it.
up the approach to scope of
The
work.
approach.
Yeah.
The scope of work?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, you're there. So maybe
Yes.
with that modification?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I second.
Yes. Okay. I said yes
I
for
want to
you.
make sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so with the modification and the discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We are on item 15, an equity update. We spoke about this at the February 5th, 2019 meeting, and they are coming back with recommendations. What I have to say, or I'll say it at the end because I think you'll be surprised about how it's moving.
Thank you, Chairwoman Pastor and subcommittee members. As you mentioned, we were at the February subcommittee meeting. With me today is Don Logan from our Equal Opportunity Department and Lori Bays from our Human Resources Department. Those two departments will be working on implementing this training should it be moved forward to the full City Council. So at the February subcommittee meeting, we talked about national best practices for equity training, City of Phoenix internal and external equity efforts, and also we introduced you to GARE, which is the Government Alliance for Race and Equity, and that's the organization that provides equity training to government agencies across the United States. For the training overview that we're considering, 200 of the city's top leaders would be trained. That includes City Manager Ed Zerker and his executive team and the executives from all of the city departments, the middle managers and executives, focusing mainly on those departments that work with the community the closest, street transportation, parks and recreation, those departments that would be working on equity programs with the community. The training would include introduction to equity best practices and principles, and also developing strategies and ideas of how to successfully work with the community when implementing new programs and projects. The cost of the training is approximately $155,000. As Councilwoman Pastor has said in the past, there would be no general fund dollars used. She is helping to raise outside dollars for this training. And the donations so far that have been secured is $55,000, and that is from LISC and Vitalist. The other dollars are working on being raised, the other $100,000 that would make up the total of $155,000. So we're here today requesting that the subcommittee recommend City Council approval to implement equity training for city leadership. This item, if approved, would be on next week's formal council agenda. And that concludes the presentation, unless you have any questions.
Go ahead, Councilman.
So Councilwoman is leading the efforts of raising the $150,000. So I want to commend you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
I think this is a very important work for the city.
kudos on it.
I too would want to thank you. You're doing a good job. And if you need a little help,
I will.
okay.
I will come to
I'll
you.
be happy to help.
I will come to you.
I will be happy to help, and I'd be happy to make a motion.
Yes, what I do want to say is this won't move forward unless the money is raised. So I have pressure on myself, internal pressure to make sure it happens and make it move. So I think this is work that's needed within a city government, and be able to also, we work a lot with our community, and we have been hearing for the last, I would say, 3 years, 3 years, speaking about equity from all forms, from starting from the budget all the way down to the police department. And so I think this is one way of everybody understanding what the community is asking for and be able to holistically move together and make our city great. So, so thank you. I need a motion.
I move.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Oops. Yes.
I do also want to thank you for leading this effort. This is something that we really need, and I'm looking forward to having this in the city. So thank you very much.
And I just want to say this all includes your council offices, your staff, and it also includes us. So
And
if you
past
wanna
council members
participate.
also, like Claude Maddox, right?
Yeah.
I'm ready and willing.
Okay. All right. Need a motion.
So I move to approve the implementation of the equity training for city leadership.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes. There you go.
Aye.
We'll get ready. Yeah. Aye, aye, aye. Yeah, see what happens. Wait, hang on. There's no call to the public. I don't have any cards. And any future agenda items? We don't know what our committee's going to look like in the future.
Did we?
What items would you like me to put on? You tell me.
I think I'd like to have an update on what's going on along the Rio Salado.
Sure. Okay.
So I know it's your district.
Oh,
but
no, absolutely.
I'm very
no.
curious.
There's lots.
There's lots.
Yes. So Rio Salado will be on the next update
Thank you.
or agenda. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Good job, you guys. We got out of here quick.